Hey everyone, Keith Hearn, Fine Point Design and Marketing. One of the questions we get a lot is, how can I improve my Google rankings right now just by myself? What can I do to actually change this stuff? Or what can I do to work with you to change my rankings? So there's so many things that can be done by yourself, and that people just need to understand what the basics of them are. And I'm going to go through those things now so that you can actually start to improve the rankings of your website all by yourself. These are kind of just the very top level things. There are going to be a lot more granular things that you can do to really improve them above and beyond what we're talking about right here. But for right now, these are the first things that I would start to work on. The very, very first thing, regardless of whether or not you have a website or not, is to have a Google Business page. Now, it's also been referred to as a GMB page or Google My Business, but it's something that's completely free. It's run by Google, and this is what's going to get you in the Google Maps area. Now, we've done other videos on this in the past. I don't want to go too in-depth on some of these things here, but I will break down the major things here, and we can take a look at those. But for more specifics on it, take a look at some of our other videos where we do go into more in-depth into the Google Business profile. So let's go ahead and take a look at what they are right now. Beyond going ahead and just registering your profile, Google may have already created this for you, but it's just not actually claimed yet. So if you go to let's see here. You go to business.google.com up here, and it's going to ask you if you've not already signed in to select the business. It's going to ask you to put in the address there. Go ahead and pull that address up and see if it's claimed or not. It's going to ask you if you want to manage the business or claim it. It's possible that somebody else already did. Maybe a web developer did it for you when they built your website. Maybe an SEO company did it when they did that for you. But it's also very possible that you don't have this. So start up by going to business.google.com. Enter your business address, and you'll start from there. I'm not going to go through the whole registration process right now, but I want to go through some of the major things once you have that set up of what you want to look at. So for one, it's going to be completing your profile information. So if you go into info area over here, I'm just going to take a look at my business profile page, just so I'm not showing you client data here. You want to make sure this is as filled out as possible. Now, one of the first things I'm going to put in the my notes here is to always make sure you've got the correct service category. And what that means is when you're first up here, you put in your business name, and then you put in your service category, your primary and then secondary ones. So you can see if I click on that, there's a primary category and then other categories. Now, these are not ones that I necessarily type out the exact words on. They are categories that Google already has built out that you can choose from. So you want to find something that's as close to your business as possible. You also want to see what your competition's doing. So if you do a Google search, let's go ahead and just take a look here. If I were to do a Google search for a plumber near me, we can see these are the Google business results that relate to your Google Maps. And these are the top 3 results that they give me. So if I were a plumber and I wanted to know what the best category that all my other competitors are ranking in, we can see right here next to the reviews, they have the primary category. Now, they're not showing the secondary categories in here. They're just showing the primary, but you want to know what it is. Now, this may seem kind of obvious with this case, but there are some categories that you could fall into one of a couple different categories for this. So it could be like, plumbing contractor or plumbing parts or different things like that. But you want to make sure that you are kind of on par with your competition. So make sure you've got a good category set up in there. The next thing is going to be adding several service areas. So if someone were to do a search for plumber near me, and you were maybe not in the exact city that that person was in, maybe you're in one of those surrounding cities, you can still say what areas you cover within your profile here. So we can see service areas. I can type in my zip code. I can type in the actual city names. I can type in county names, things like that. Or if you're, if you go through a couple different states, you can type in those different states. You want to let Google know the areas that you service. So having those in there is very important. Adding products. So this is kind of a big deal. So let's say you're a service provider. You don't have actual products. That doesn't matter. You still want to go in and add products, which you would just want to think of as your services. So you can see over here on the left-hand side, I can click on products. And you can see I have broken down my services as products in here. Now, these are super important because you can give your product a name, a category, a price range, a description. You really want to have as many keywords in here as possible, so fill this out as much as possible. You can see we've got 381 words out of 1,000, or excuse me, out of characters out of 1,000. So I could still definitely improve on this. But having this filled out as much as possible, and then link to that service page on your website. That's huge. That tells Google that, hey, you have this service, and this is where you can find more information on it for. So having this is definitely going to help your rankings. you can add photos. This is another really big thing. And there's a couple different ways that you add photos. So you can see here, if I go to my photos, we've got all different types of photos. But what you want to do is a couple different things. You want to have your cover photo, you want to have a logo, and then there you want to have photos of things that you do. Google Business will break this down into a couple different categories. So if I were to add a photo, let me do it. I have to do it. Let's go ahead and take a look at this photo here. So if I add a photo, you're going to get the option to add one of 4 different categories that this photo falls into. Is it an interior shot? Is it at work? Is it exterior? Or is it your team? They want to see people that work there. So having a good mix of all these different things is really important to Google. They want to see these different things that you do, the place that you work at. So we tell our clients, hey, go out there and take pictures of the front of your building. Go out there and take pictures of your parking lots. Take pictures around town of the different service areas that you cover. If you actually go onto job sites and do work, take pictures there. And what that does is it gives you the information to be able to put into here of you at work. But what's even more important is if you're taking those photos with your phone, it's going to encode within that photo geolocation. It's going to put the latitude and longitude of where you're at when you took that photo. And Google will then read that once you've uploaded it from your phone. And it's going to know, oh, wow, these are the different areas that these photos were taken, so they must really be working in these service areas here. So it's kind of a subtle indication to Google that you are actually working in the areas that you say you're at. And what that's going to do is going to help increase your visibility within the Google Maps here. So again, go around town, take photos of your actual business, inside of your business, around town, service areas, and then actual projects that you've done, and upload them here. It's going to make a huge, huge difference. A lot of people aren't doing that, so that's definitely one that you can take advantage of. Posts and offers, another really good one here. So if I go up to posts up here, Google gives you the opportunity to add things like blog posts or special offers or talk about new things with your business up here. So you can see we can post a couple different ways. And if you think about this almost like a Facebook post, you can put a photo, you can put a description, and then once you're in there, you can add a link. So you can see we've got a couple different options when we go to create a new post. We've got the COVID-19 information. We've got an offer, so I can make a special offer in here, start date and end date. If I choose what's new, though, that's a great one where I can talk about new things about my business. We can also create an event. Let's say I'm having an open house or there's some kind of big function going on. We can add that information in here. Google loves this stuff. It lets Google know that your business is still alive and active. And it gives them a lot of information to learn about your business and deliver your business address when people are doing a search if it feels that you are relevant enough. Very last thing that a lot of people don't do that's so important is publishing the Google website. So once you're in here, once you're filling all this information out, it's actually feeding into a website that Google builds out for you. Now, if you already have a website, it doesn't really matter. What I would do is go ahead and take a look, make sure all the information that's in here is correct. You can see all the different posts that I've been posting show up in here, testimonials that we get, the About Us information, all sorts of stuff like that is showing up in here. But it doesn't go live until you make it live. So there's a button right up here typically that would say, I think it says draft and go live, something like that. Do that. Now, chances are this website is not going to show up in the search results, but Google loves pulling information from this. So make sure that it's live. If you don't have a website, you can connect a domain name up here and have this be your website for a little while. I would definitely suggest having a actual domain name and actual website built out, not just this little one-page thing that Google puts together for you. But for nothing else, to have this information for Google to pull from is super, super important. So make sure you go live with your website. All right, so the next thing that you can do is website optimization. This is stuff that really anybody can do. Now, again, we're going to use my website just as an example here. And we're going to go through some of the major things, kind of really top-level things that you should be doing or at least looking for in your website. First one's going to be, do you have good title tags and meta descriptions? Let's go ahead and do another search here. I'm going to show you what these title tags are. So if you were to do a search, and you see down here in the regular organic rankings, this right here would be the website's title tag. And this right here would be what they call the meta description. This is the description that's put within each page of your website, and it tells you exactly what's going on with it. And this is what Google pulls from, and it posts within these search results here. So you can see for my website up here, you can kind of start to see the title tag right up here in the little tab. But if I go to view the source of it, now you can do this within any browser. Usually go to view developer view source, things like that. There's different ways you can access the code, but you can actually see the code that builds up your website. What I did is I just did a quick search for a title tag. I just typed in the word title, and you can see here is the title that comes up for my website. I can also do a search for description. You can start to see the description set up here. So I have a meta description, and this is the description that makes up my website. So if somebody were to Google and my business came up within here, we should see this as being this right up here being the title, and then this being the description in the search results. So making sure that each page of your website has this is very important. Now, not just having it, but making sure that it has certain keywords in it. So whatever types of things that you offer, try to have those within the title and the description. Things like your location, your services, your company name, things like that, exactly what you want to see in there. Next thing is, do you have a services page set up? So a lot of people aren't doing this, and this is a huge thing. We call these city pages or location pages, things like that. And what this is a very special page on your website, not really found in the main navigation, but it's a page that's within your site that Google can index. And what it does is it talks about a service and a location near you. So we build these out for our clients, and we build tons of these pages, and they reference the different cities and the different services that you offer. So if you have 2 different services, we may build those out for several different cities. It's going to look something like this. So here's a city near us, Clarkston, Michigan, and web design, that's our service. So we build out a page with a lot of great information about both web design and Clarkston, Michigan. And what this does is it tells the search engines that, hey, these people must do web design in Clarkston, Michigan. And even though we are not specifically located in there, it's going to pull it up for the search results because it's a neighboring city. It's right next to us. Now you can see that we have a lot of different things in here. We've got different header tags in here. We've got different keywords in here that all relate. We've got links to different pages on our website that talk about the services that we offer. We also talk about Clarkston, Michigan. We have a photo of Clarkston, Michigan. We have a photo of web design. We talk a little bit about a description about Clarkston, Michigan. We talk about things to do in Clarkston, Michigan. Now, even though people may not come to our website to look for things to do in Clarkston, Michigan, it's telling Google that, hey, we are an authority source trying to provide something that's very important to anybody who's searching for these 2 things here. Now, we also put a Google map on here that gives driving directions from the city that we've talked about to our personal location here. So building out these location pages is a huge, huge benefit for your website. Are you posting new content regularly? And is it of quality content? So this is a big one that we get a lot of times. People come to us with these little, 300-word, 200-word articles that they've written, and they're so excited about that because they wrote them and they want this to be their next blog post. The problem with that, though, is that Google has so much information. They don't need these piddly little, 300-word articles. That's not going to move the needle. That's not going to get you to show up for anything. Save that kind of thing for a Facebook post or a LinkedIn post or something like that. What you need to do is to write a blog post or a case study or a page on your website and write it in a very specific way. So what we do for our clients is that we take that keyword that they're trying to rank for, they want to have a service page on or a blog post about, and we have special software that we can plug that into, and I'll pull up an example of it here. So we want to do an article on how to rank in the 3-pack of Google Maps. And what this program is doing is it's going out and looking at all the blog posts that talk about this title, and it pulls back and it gives me the basic information that we need to try to be on par with or better than. So we can see that the average word count for anything related to this is about 2,100 words. So we know that we're going to write either a location page or a blog post about ranking in the Google Maps. We need to have at least probably 2,200 words for Google to want to rank us. We need to make sure that the readability level is lower than 10th or 12th grade. We want to keep this as simple as possible. Now we can also look down at some of the examples of the top ranking articles. So we can see that the number of words in the top articles here, this one's really low, but it must be getting probably like a ton of backlinks, or it has a very specific, the name of the article matches the exact keyword that I was looking for. We can see how many images it's using, how many headlines it's using, how many paragraphs, all the different information about that. That's what we need to know about before we start writing an article. So you can see if you were to come to me with a 400-word article, it's going to have to be pretty darn good and pretty darn exact to what people are searching for it to get to rank, because the next best article is almost 7,000 words, just over 1,000 words, 1,200 words, things like that. We can see all these different articles that are ranking and what we have to do to compete with them. And we can also see what are the keywords that people are using in there and how are they using them in the article. So this is the kind of stuff that our software does, and it really makes writing an article or a page for your website a lot easier because we can provide the framework and you just have to fill in the content within there. So again, having good quality content is so important. You can't just put a 500-word article up on your website and expect it to rank. So are you using Schema on your website? We talked about this in another recent video. This is a piece of code that you're going to have written for the search engines, and it tells them exactly what they need to know in a way that they need to know it on how to understand your business, what's your business name, what's your logo, your hours, your phone number, different things like that. And that's going to put that into your website. Now, not having that is going to hurt you in the rankings. By having that's going to put you above the sites who are not using that. Check out one of our other videos where we talk about the schema. I'll put a link down below about how to generate that code. It's super easy. All you got to do is add it to your website. Super easy to do. Do you have an XML sitemap? Now, that is, if you have a WordPress website, typically there's a plugin that'll create that for you. I'm going to show you what this is. So here's the sitemap, XML sitemap on our website. It's automatically generated. What it does is it goes through and maps out all the pages on our website, and it provides it in a very specific way that we can submit to Google to tell them, hey, here's the map to our website. Go ahead and start crawling it. So what I would do is take this sitemap and I go over to something called Google Search Console. It's another free tool that they have, very similar to like analytics. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into my profile and just add that sitemap. And what that does is gives that sitemap directly to Google and tells them to start to crawl my website. And here's all the different pages on there. Now, if you don't have that, Google doesn't necessarily go to your website and just look at every page on your site. They may see a page on your website that has a link to another website on it, and they're going to jump off and they're going to leave. They're not going to come back for a while. So having that sitemap tells them everything about your website, and it's very, very important to keep on there. So we just talked about, is this submitted to Search Console? Good. Does your site load fast? Super, super important. A couple of years ago, Google came up with an algorithm update to where the search results that they give back are based on what they call mobile first indexing. And what that means is having your site load fast enough. So if somebody were to pull it up on a phone, it's going to load fast. They're going to look at that as being kind of the first indicator. A desktop computer is going to load your website a lot faster. So you don't have to really, focus so much on that, but really optimizing it well for speed for mobile users is critical. That's going to be things like compressing photos, making sure that they're the right size, compressing code, minimizing code, different things like that. Now, to see if your website loads fast or not, of course, Google has a great tool called PageSpeed Insights. And what you do is you just plop in your URL, your web address up there, and hit Analyze. And we can see that for a desktop user, we are 99% optimized for our website, which is awesome. For mobile, could use a little bit of work, but it's in the 82% range, which is pretty good. You're going to see a lot of websites who are not optimized for this, probably down in the 10 and 20% range. Very, very common for WordPress websites to load slow just because there's so much information that they typically have. But if you have questions about a website loading fast and how to do it properly, give us a shout. You can comment below or just contact us through our website. We can help get you set up on this, but definitely plug your website into here, see where it's ranking as far as speed goes. And as you start to increase your site speed, you'll see that your rankings will start to come up as well. So it's very important to have that. And then, is your site mobile friendly? So that's another thing. You can take your website. Let's go and pull this out here. Really, the easiest way is beyond just pulling it up on your phone here, is to just minimize a browser window, and you can start to see what it's going to look like on a mobile device. Now, this is not perfect because you can't get the browser small enough to an actual mobile size here, but you will see about what it should look like. We can see that we don't have buttons going off to the side or photos floating off to the side. Everything seems to be responsive, basically resizing based on the monitor size here. So everything's looking pretty good. And that's another key thing to having the Google Search Console that we looked at up here. So having this in here, we can actually see if it's how well our site is doing on a mobile device. So you can see we've actually got one error on one page of about clickable elements being too close together here. So that's a great reason to be using Google Search Console to see, where are my deficiencies on my website here. So making sure that this is mobile friendly is super important. The last thing is to make sure that you have what's called an SSL. Most websites have these nowadays. Years back, nobody really was too worried about them unless you had an e-commerce website. But what that is that little lock icon you see up here next to your domain name. What that's doing is encrypting the data on your website. Now, it doesn't mean that your website won't be hacked. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's secure from that standpoint, but what it is, it's encrypting the data on there. So if somebody were to hack in, they would be able to read the data. So like, let's say you had an e-commerce website and you were taking like credit card information and things like that. It's going to encrypt that data so that people are not able to see that information. So same thing with having like a login to your website. If there were, people had their personal information in there and they got hacked, hackers would not be able to get that information because it's set behind a secure layer. So that's something that you would add on through your hosting. Again, a lot of hosting companies set that up by default now as like a free thing or just an add-on. So definitely make sure you have that. I still see a lot of older websites that don't have that, and they are more vulnerable to any kind of security risks by not having it. A lot of browsers too will show up that it says something like, this site is not secure. And people don't always understand what that means, so they may think that, oh, the site is hacked or there's something wrong with it, so they leave. So if they see your website as being not secure, chances are they're not going to spend a lot of time on it. All right, so the last thing we want to talk about is offsite work. So we've talked about Google Business, we've talked about web optimizing the website itself. Now, offsite work. So there's other things that we can do to have your website start to rank other than just optimizing the site. So what we want to do is make sure that you have what's called your NAP and taking a look and see what that looks like in major directories. So if you want, if you comment below, we can send you a free report on what your NAP looks like. But what that is how your name, address, and phone number appears in different directories. And the way we would typically fix this is what we call directory unification or citation building. And what that is, it's populated all the major directories with your exact name, address, and phone number so that it appears consistent across all these different directories. And by directories, I mean things like MapQuest, Facebook, Google Business, Yelp, Foursquare, and there's actually like over 100 of these different directories that you want to be in, and that this is what Google pulls from when someone does a local search. So again, let's use the example of a plumber near me. They're going to look at all these different directories and say, how relevant are these guys? How relevant is this company if I were looking for this service in this area? So having that in there, that's what Google pulls from. And that's one more indication to Google of why they would rank you in that top, what they call the map pack of the Google search results there. So having those citations built out is super important. Now there's different services that'll do this for you, and there's different types of citations that you can buy. If you have questions about that, again, comment below. We're happy to kind of answer those questions and point you in the right direction. We can't go too in depth in a lot of that right now. But building citations is super, super important. A lot of times once we do this directory unification or citation building for our clients, within the first month, they usually see like a huge increase in rankings just because you have given some really high authority websites your exact information and links back to your website, and Google's just like, oh wow, these guys are really relevant now. So they start to raise you in the rankings. It doesn't always happen, but a lot of times that is something that we see, so this is very, very important. Now, are you getting backlinks from other websites as well? These could be from other blogs. These can be from other relevant websites. Maybe they're either locally in your area that you're just doing kind of like a link swap with, or even offsite blogging websites like medium.com or wordpress.com and sites like that where you can post information and link back to your website. What that does is two things. One, it tells Google that you are an authority, that people are talking about you and linking back to you, so they must think that you're some kind of an authority. And two, it provides one more roadmap for Google to come back and re-index your website. So if they see a link on a blog that's not on your website and Google comes in and they follow that and it goes down to your website, it just brings them back even quicker. So it's kind of like creating roads into your house. It's like if you've only got one road into your house, you're not going to get a lot of people driving by. But if you have tons of roads all coming into your towards your house, you're going to start to get a lot more traffic. So building those links is very important. Now, are those backlinks diverse? What that means is, are those links coming in from different sources? Like, is it from a social bookmarking type of website? Is it from a blog? Is it from a local business? There's so many different types of links. You want to make sure that those are diverse. So basically what I'm saying is, like, you don't want a bunch of links all coming back from different types of just directories and the citations that we talked about building. You'd want them coming in from social media sites. You want them coming in from those social bookmarking sites, other local businesses, things like that, that you can get those backlinks from. That looks more natural to Google as opposed to, again, having a whole bunch of just one type of backlink. So hopefully that makes sense. We've covered a lot of things at a very high level here. If you do have questions about any of these things, feel free to reach out to us. We're either happy to walk you through these things in more detail. or help answer the questions and actually do the work for you. So just let us know. But definitely take a look at some of the other videos that we've done that break down some of these areas in more specifics to get a better understanding of it. And again, if there's anything else we can do, just let us know. Thanks.